allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So see what
Sorry, little coaching, don't you know?
It would have been hard to miss with the box of last one. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
The next thing we're going to have is a roll call.
There you go. Ready? Chair Ames?
Here.
Commissioner Wise?
Here.
Bees, you just told me that.
That's all right.
Wow. Commissioner Carlson? Commissioner Hopala?
Here.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Here.
Commissioner Piero?
Here.
Planner Stockman?
Here.
Mayor Pila?
Here.
Have I got everyone?
Okay. The next thing we'll do is approve or amend the night meeting agenda of April 26, 2022. Somebody like to make this motion?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Bice?
Peace.
All second.
Commissioner Hippola seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next thing we're going to do is approve or amend the meeting minutes of March 22nd, 2021. I think you all have them right in front of you there.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Pearl made a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The first thing we're going to open our first public hearing. It's for Carneyview Acres 2 Edition, 19370 Moses Street, for a subdivision of 26.25 acre parcel into 3 lots. Variation for a lot width measurement at the front setback line. Vacating of the old drainage and utility easement. I'm going to ask the planner to present what she has.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The proposed subdivision is including an area that was originally part of Country View Acres First Edition, just located off of Burns Parkway and Marmoset Street. The 26.25 acre parcel was originally platted as lots 5 and 6 of Country View Acres. This is the original plat from 1990. And then at some point, unknown, the owner combined those 2 lots into 1 parcel, which it is now. And then Mr. Swartz lives next door here, and he and his partner bought the parcel. So Marmoset Street is an existing cul-de-sac, and proposing 3 lots with an existing home on the center parcel. We were sure to leave space on the east side here should the property owner or the buyer of this parcel want to build an accessory building. And so lots 1 and 2 are slightly less than the 300-foot lot width. That's measured at the building setback line. You can see that further back the lots do widen out, which is characteristic of cul-de-sac lots. Both of the new lots do have the required buildability of 23,000 square feet, and soil borings indicate 12 inches plus to modeling, which would be acceptable for type 1 septic systems. Proposed also is a drainage and utility easement surrounding the existing wetlands and this ditch. And then, Mr. Munter is an adjacent property owner, and he is encroaching slightly onto lot 3. So the applicants were gracious enough to create an outlot to accommodate him, potentially that they could gift or sell this piece to the neighbor. In addition, the adjoining neighbor to the north has a driveway that comes out onto the cul-de-sac and crosses the very tip of lot 3. So the applicants are also agreeable to gifting a little corner, or at least platting this as a outlot B to accommodate that driveway easement without, or driveway without an easement, so that the adjacent owners can own the piece. They would, both of these adjacent owners would combine the 2 small pieces with their own lots. So, also part of the request, well, let me go through this. Aerial photos showing the density requirement. So, as you may know, Nowthen allows 8 units per 40 acres. Currently, there's 7 units per 40 acres in this quarter section, and 3 per 40 in the southerly 40. So we have plenty of density left to allow the proposed 3-lot plat. I talked a little bit about this park search area in my planning report. All subdivisions that come through the city are required to either dedicate land or cash toward the city's park and trail plan. Even though the very edge of this search area includes the proposed plat, there's really not a reasonable area or size parcel-wise of land that we would be interested in. So I'm recommending that you discuss that and make a recommendation on land or cash dedication. Lastly would be the vacation of this old easement that was originally platted on lot 6 and lot 5. And what's interesting to note is that that was done prior to the 1991 Wetland Act, which required wetland delineations for all subdivisions. So you can see the difference in just basically guessing where the wetlands were versus the extent to which they are at the present time. Our office is recommending approval of this subdivision and variance. When we're looking at variance criteria, there is a state statute regarding variances, and the city has to consider the criteria for approving a variance, and the request must meet certain criteria. One of those criteria is consideration that this is a practical difficulty. In other words, are the applicants proposing a use that's reasonable and otherwise not permitted in the city code? So our regular lot width, for instance, is 300 feet. The proposed lot widths on lots 1 and 2. Lot 1 is 202.2 feet wide at the building setback, and lot 2 is 198.4 feet wide. So some of the other things we look at is the proposed use consistent with adjacent lots and other parcels that are zoned rural residential ag in the city, and the impacts on neighboring property owners. So these lot width deviations will not affect setbacks or building size or building height. They would still have to meet the required 20-foot side yard setbacks from neighboring properties and one another. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, at this time, the applicant, has they got anything they want to present this time? No. Okay. Would the clerk verify the legal publications of mailing and postings, have they been completed?
They have.
They have. Okay. Have we have any questions to ask here of our planner? This happens quite often, we have to ask for a variance on the cul-de-sac, and
No, well, it has happened in the past. Yeah, part of my recommendation is maybe to take a look at the required lot width on cul-de-sac lots. What happens if we do see requests for variances over the same type of issue, then that kind of is the city's clue to take a look at that and ask ourselves, does our code need to be changed to accommodate cul-de-sac lots, or change, maybe a lesser lot width on those lots. That's not to say that we're gonna do that now, or that that's for sure. It was just a suggestion.
I have a question. If we had designed that cul-de-sac differently back in '90, there's no, we could still got the frontage.
I think we would have had a little more had we had a different shape there, yes. But I still don't think we would have gotten the 300 on each lot.
Now, with the two lots, we would have,
What do you mean?
the original two.
Oh, yeah, with the original two, correct.
So they made this thing, they made this problem by putting it back into put all the acreage together into one lot.
Not necessarily, but the request, yeah, the request for the variance is triggered by the 3-lot request. Yes, but
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
does the cul-de-sac meet the current requirements for the
it
size?
does, yes.
Okay.
I asked the Public Works, the
Okay.
city engineer that.
Who wants to speak out there? They signed up because it's a public
Okay,
hearing.
okay. Now I'm gonna ask if there's anybody out in the public that would like to make comments toward this public hearing. If you have a comment, step up to the microphone, make sure it's on, give your name and your address.
I am Jane Sherrod. I live the one right above.
Oh, right north.
Right there.
Mhm.
Yep, at 19423.
Is the microphone green there?
Press the bottom button.
Press the bottom button.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So I'm just a little concerned on how close it is to my house, basically right now, platted. But I don't quite understand the variance, so I don't quite understand this variance needed. Like if we didn't do the variance and made the house back farther, so I'm worried about, so that SB 10 right there is actually 75 feet from my garage corner, right there. So, but you said you only need 20 feet in between lots, is that what you were?
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Anna.
What they're showing here is that that you've got 23,000 square feet with the separation required to construct a home. That the side yard setback is 20 feet.
Only
And
20
so
feet?
That hasn't changed. So even prior to now, or with the 2 lots, they could have located that 20 feet. It's doubtful that they're gonna put it right up against the line. And this does not bind them to putting the home within the area. They can bring in fill to create separation, for instance, if they wanted to put it right in the middle. And so that is allowable. I mean, most people, I don't think are gonna go right up against you.
You would hope not, but
This is, and this lot here does have the required width.
it does have, so that one
Yeah.
doesn't need a variance.
This one is a legal
Okay.
lot under, yeah, with more than.
Because that's what I
300.
didn't quite understand what the variance was doing,
So
so.
really, see, this one has more than 300 feet, lot 3. So in a way, the existing house placement, you know, had some play into how this laid out, obviously. So that, and the fact that it was there is part of the practical difficulties I spoke about.
Okay, so my only concern was just how close it's gonna feel between having the houses. I didn't realize what the variance was actually doing.
Oh.
You know, like if it was saying, oh, now you can build this close to the road, or, you know,
Yeah.
so that wasn't,
Well, and if you think about it, I mean, most people in Nowthen don't put their house right at the setback. I mean, they could, but, farther back, it's 300 feet wide, so it's,
is there any way to have something that says you have to build, or is it just the rules of now then? Like, there's
Mr.
nothing
Chair.
that says,
no, if they're, Mr. Chair, yeah.
Yes.
She would just answer her question.
is there anything that says where you have to build a house far enough back? Like, so like right now, if somebody put it in that buildable area, you know, I'm looking right out my living room window at a house. You know, and now then is country, I mean, that's what we wanna make it feel like country and not on top of each other. So is there something that, you know, some ordinance or anything that says you have to have it back besides as close as it's showing right now, or not really?
No, if they meet the required setbacks, then they're
Then they can
allowed
put
to-
it wherever
they're allowed to.
however they want.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, those were my questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, go ahead, that's fine.
Is there anybody else that'd like to get up? Okay, what about on the planning and zoning? Do we have any further questions we want to ask here?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner, I thought.
yeah, so I see here on 2C, it says the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner. So the lot joining was done by some previous owner?
Correct, yeah. So previous owner had combined lots 5 and 6 and, you know, built a house in the middle. So that's part, yeah, that's what was previously done. And then I'm also thinking about the, you know, shape of the parcel, the shape of the cul-de-sac, all those things are existing.
Mr. Chair?
Mayor, yeah.
So Liz, the question I have is the property line between lot 2 and lot 3 as proposed, isn't that subject to the design though? I mean, they're choosing to need the variance on lot 2 by where they put the line between 2 and 3.
Yeah, they could move that lot line over slightly, but they're still, I believe they're still not gonna meet the 300 required.
What's on lot 3? What is it right now, do you know?
I can't think here, let's see, 300 and. Can anyone read it?
On lot 3, at the
Yeah,
cul-de-sac, it
there's-
says 207.
No,
At the
the
setback.
setback line.
Oh, at the setback line, so sorry.
Oh, 300,
Is it 334.8?
yeah, I think
It's-
it's 334.
Looks like 334.8.
Yeah. So they could move that line over. I don't know that it would be enough, but we could certainly look at that.
Just so I'm reading the right numbers. You're looking at this number right here. Yeah,
This
yes.
one.
Well, that, see how it's got a circle here that shows the setback?
Yeah, but you measure it with a straight line, so,
Okay.
so that's the
334,
curvature.
yep, it is.
And then that's the straight line.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Hippo.
I have a question for planner, so if they shorten that to 300 on lot 5, do you know what the setback would be on, the width would be on block, or lot 2?
No, I don't know exactly, so let's say we took 30 feet, I don't know if we can because they're supposed to be radial to the cul-de-sac. But assuming we could take 30 feet, we'd be at around 230 on lot 2 then instead of 200. We just have to see how it laid out. But that's one option. I mean, the other thing is between lots 1 and 2, we've got more than the 20-foot setback to the existing home. I don't know if there's any benefit to going closer, but you still couldn't obtain
So what's the width at the existing home?
the width.
Since it's built there, so that's 300 feet there, it seems like that would be fine.
Yeah, but see, you measure at the setback, so, they all have more than 300 where the house will likely be placed, but,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just one thing I wanted to share, I guess, earlier, the reason why I spoke. What determines the location of the home is obviously placement of soil borings, but depends on the width of the home and the garage together. That also plays a big factor on where a house gets placed. If you have a smaller home, smaller garage, closer to the road, you can place it. But you get a larger home, larger garages, it ends up having to move back because there's required setbacks on each side of the property line that forces it to be either moved back or turned in a certain way in order for it to fit. So, it's a big, big determining factor that no one can foresee.
Can I say something? Back when this was platted, Tom, who owned the
can
property.
you stand up?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Back when this was platted, Tom, who owned the property, had done, I don't even know what you call it. He filed something with the plat, and I haven't had a chance to go to Anoka County to find it, but there is a thing where it says you have to have a 1,500 square foot foundation. Like, he filed that originally with it. And pole barns were supposed to be the same color, it was kind of like a covenant type thing, and he gave me a copy of it once, but I have been working a lot, and I have not had a chance to dig through all my stuff.
It's
So-
probably not far off from what the city has in
Is that what you guys have for
requirements.
requirements? Okay.
They may have changed slightly since his home was built, but we do have our own.
Do you have requirements like
ordinance.
that?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, well, now that I understand what the variance is for, I have no objection.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just for the record, yeah, it's 1,200 square feet for a 2-story or multi-level, and 1,800 square feet for a Rambler right now. And that does not include the attached garage.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mayor.
we don't currently on a plat like this require the whole buildings to match the primary structure?
No, we just say compatible, but not matching, right?
Did you catch that on the foundation size?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
regarding any possible covenants or something, yeah, we could look in the Anoka County records to see if those were recorded. If they were not recorded against all the lots, then there's not much we can do legally. If they are, then we would talk that over with the council. If they want to make that again part of the plat,
They weren't like major things, it was just to
Yeah.
make sure your house size was significant or,
okay, okay.
and stuff. And
Okay, yeah, I can check it out.
From what I can
though.
remember, it's
Okay.
been, I've lived there 24 years, so
Oh,
it's been a
okay.
while.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right, that's good information though, thanks.
Does the planning and zoning have any other discussion here? Not, we'll again ask the public if they have anything they'd like to add here. If there's no more comments, we'll close the public hearing. Public hearing's closed, now we'll act upon it. I think, Liz, you had 16 recommendations here, right?
Conditions of approval, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, do we have to add in there about just what we talked about? Check and see if
If,
we
yeah,
covered it.
if the commission would like to investigate moving those lot lines slightly, we can do that. One or both lot lines, I guess you'd have to, talk that through a little bit. I mean, technically, yeah, the variance is supposed to be the least variance possible. So certainly between lots 2 and 3, I think is something to look at. Whether, you know, how close we go to the house on lot 2 between 1 and 2, could use some discussion.
That would give you a little bit more width if you would move that line over, you say 30 feet.
Yeah, that would be here, up in this area, right? Just guessing it'd be around 30 feet. If we can gain that, that would be good.
I would also push it closer to my house. So maybe then I would object.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Bias.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay with the way it is. I think maybe in the future we take up looking at the requirements for cul-de-sac lots, because I just, shifting the lines around doesn't seem to change anything other than, like the resident mentioned, pushing it closer to her house, for no reason other than, to me, you know, we're still gonna have 3 driveways or 4 driveways at that cul-de-sac, no matter how you move the lines. So I don't know that it significantly changes anything or improves anything to move a line over 30 feet.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Pearl?
I was on the same thought as Mr. Byes over here, that we're kind of splitting hairs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mr. Chair.
Mayor?
I think the point is, that's the type of thing should be thought of before it comes to us, because again, the variance is the least disruptive. And it would have been nice to say, the requirement is 300 feet, we can't get that, but what can we do when we're laying this out, rather than, and come back and split hairs now, but it's the idea that, what can you do when you're establishing this? Because that is, if you're requesting a variance, that should have been considered. Generally, we vary from what you don't have control over. But since this was platted out this way, they did have control over it, so it's just something that, whether you want to deal with it now or not, it's something that we should make sure that we, the planner works with the applicants in the future to note that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it was considered, and again, we had the same thoughts on the back side of this, looking at it, you know, what is the benefit gonna be here? We're trying to make the existing house on lot 2, you know, maintain some privacy, I guess, if you wanna call it that, so. But, yeah, I understand what we're getting at.
How's the rest of the commission feel about that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that line, Probably doesn't matter as much, cause that area of the lot doesn't look like it's buildable even for a house. From where the-
Yeah, it gets pretty low there.
It's like low land there, so moving the line doesn't really affect any buildings are gonna be positioned.
Except that they could bring in fill, but it's a large enough,
Looks like a lot of fill.
a lot, it's a large enough lot either way. You could certainly recommend it.
Any other-
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mayor.
Planner Stockton, so on the driveway on the existing home on lot 2, that does meet the setbacks though, from the,
Yes, 15 feet, right.
Okay.
Actually, more than that.
I sort of agree with the mayor in that we should try to make the lot as wide as we can when they come in for a variance. But this is something when it got to the council too, the council could change this if this is their desire, right, Mayor?
always can, yes.
Huh?
Council is the last decision, yeah.
Yes. Is there any other discussion? Can we address all 3 items with one motion? Or do they have to be 3 motions?
No, one motion is fine
One motion?
for the subdivision, the variance, and the vacation of the easement.
We're open for a motion. Somebody'd like to make a motion into, with the,
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
yes, go ahead, Commissioner Epple.
So I got a question about the vacation of the easement. Is this, being replaced by a different easement with the wetland delineation or something?
Yes, so if you look on this, the plat, the preliminary plat, you see this dotted line that goes around here? It goes around the wetlands. There's a dotted line. So they'll draw straight angled lines around the wetland. And it was suggested in the, as a condition that it be moved out slightly to include the wetland buffer. So we'll just move but the easement does, there's a much larger easement than there previously was.
Okay.
Someone like to make a motion to accept this with the recommendations?
I'll make a motion to accept the division with the vacation of the old variance and the new setbacks for the delineation and the, what is it called, lot line variation, variance for the lot line. Did I cover that?
So as is shown
Yes.
with the
as is.
3-lot plat,
Yep.
preliminary plat, variance for lot width on 2 lots.
Yep,
And vacation of the old easement.
yes,
Thank you.
yep.
Commissioner Pearl made this motion. Is someone like to second this motion?
Second?
Commissioner Bryce, seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, I have a.
Yes, Commissioner.
So, do we have to include something in the wording about looking into the county records? Or as a condition?
Yeah, you could definitely add that. We don't have to, we don't know if it exists, and the council could address it, but it wouldn't hurt to
You accept that?
recommend that council direct staff to look into that.
I feel like our ordinances have probably came up since then, so I don't feel like it's a big deal, but
But
if we want someone to look into it, that's fine with me too.
Okay, you're okay with that?
Yeah, so I don't, yeah, if the, terms were put into the record, that they probably need to be abided by. If they were registered with the county.
Okay, that's been added to the motion. I have a question. The way I understand it right now, you only have to pay park fees in the one lot,
No, 2 lots.
or two lots. They have one lot.
Yeah,
They have paid for 2 lots in the
2
past,
lots, yeah.
but they changed it.
well, we're not able to find proof that they paid or didn't pay. So our policy is you're charged the park fees for the 2 new lots. The existing house lot is not charged the 2,500.
Okay, I just wanted that clarified so
Okay.
we understood. We have a motion on the floor, we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. We'll open the next public hearing now. And the next public hearing has with a variance on 19934 Birchwood Lane, a request for a setback variance to replace a septic system on a non-conforming parcel located on Twin Lakes. We'll let the planner share with us what she has.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's a small parcel, 0.9 acres, located on the kind of southwestern shore of East Twin Lake. Contains an existing home. The current septic system is in this southwest corner. At the time of sale, the applicant recently purchased the home. At the time of sale, money was likely escrowed, and they are required to bring that septic system into conformance. In order to do that, they are digging out the current septic system and replacing it with a box mound, which basically is not a lot different than a regular drain field, except that you're eliminating the side slopes of your mound, and all your pipes are within this boxed area. It is commonly used on smaller parcels and lake lots where there's not a lot of space. They are tied to this location because of the setback from the ordinary high water mark, and because the well is located on the east side, and you can't be within 50 feet of a deep well. So they're basically putting it in the same location. I did speak with the Department of Natural Resources. They had no problems with this, and they referred to it basically as a formality. A variance really should have been approved previous to this, but this will allow the septic system to be legal under the terms of our current ordinance. Our office does recommend approval, subject to the conditions as contained in the findings of fact.
Is it all, is it? That's all.
Yep, that's it, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the clerk at this time to verify the legal publications mailing posting have been completed, or? They have. They have, okay. Do we have any questions to ask of the planner?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hippolyte.
Yeah, so, where's the neighbor's well? I don't see it marked on here. Is it-
It's a good question. I do not know that. The designer is not showing that, so I'm guessing that it's on the other side of the home, but we can certainly check into that,
I would think if there's an existing septic system there
that they've already.
probably,
Okay,
yeah.
but there's,
Yeah.
might not have.
Right.
This is Birchwood.
It's a good point.
It's been there a long time.
So, yeah, and the neighbors
Yeah.
to the other side looks like there's hard to fit anything there, for septic and well.
Yeah, this is a large lot by Birchwood standards.
I have a question to ask. I realize you have the mound systems, you go this box system. I know there are some in our city, but they're a lot smaller. But do they go through the same thing as they do with a mound system? Have to put layers of sand and stuff in them, or?
Oh, yes, there's much more sand in here because they have to dig out the old system, put additional sand in there. It's the same amount of piping for the most part. Like I said, it's just, if you think about cutting off the down slopes of your mound, you're still containing that same pipe area. So yeah, it's more important to have sand so that it trickles down and creates that biotic sort of process. But they are becoming more common, and they are considered legal under, the state septic system guidelines, the 70-80 rules, we call it.
Because I know some lakes, they have what they have holding tanks, and they have to pump them holding tanks, I believe it's once a year.
Yeah, this is much more preferable than holding tanks. The biggest thing with the box mound is that you just don't overload it. So you can't, it's recommended that you don't do 6 loads of laundry in a row or whatever. You kind of spread it out. Do a load or two, wait a few hours, do another load, that kind of thing.
Can I make a statement? So I'm the owner. We are only using it as a weekend cabin. It is not a full-time residence, and it is not gonna get used. We're not even doing laundry there, so it's very minimal use in the first place. I just wanna make sure you understand that this is not a full-time home. It's just a weekend beautiful retreat for me.
Thank you. Have we had any more discussion here in the planning and zoning? If not, we'll open it up. Is anybody else in the public besides the owner, or even the owner, she wants to make some more statements? And what was your name, then, so for the records?
Yeah, Jane Finn, Finn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm Irene's neighbor.
okay. Well, I'm asking these questions because I know there's one of these box things right up by my place where they have one. I seen it out there, and I thought, when I first saw it, I thought, hey, they're planting flowers or something, there's a garden or something. But anyway, is there any other discussion that we want to make here as a planning zoning? Any more from the public, any public comments? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll act upon it. I believe you have 3 recommendations here, right, in your findings of facts.
Yep.
So somebody like to make a motion to this?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance for this septic.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly made the motion. Does somebody like to second this motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, Commissioner Bias, he seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
That's the public hearings. Now we're gonna go, next thing, we're gonna go into working on our ordinance number 2022-2, and we'll turn it back over to our planner and let her share what she has there.
Thank you. I don't have any more slides. If anybody wants to stay for the discussion about architectural standards in commercial and industrial areas, there's a couple extra packets at the back of the room.
the way to clear the room, Liz. I thought it was gonna stay until you said that. Who would ever thought of Nowthen as vacation paradise?
Yeah. So, I was asked at the last meeting to provide some photos of commercial industrial buildings. And so I did quite a bit of driving through neighboring communities, Seagull, Coon Rapids, Hugo, Centerville, and a little bit in Elk River. It was really difficult to find a white building.
I forgot to send you some pictures. I did find a white building,
Did you? Where was it?
Cambridge.
Oh. Was it all metal or was it different?
It was all concrete.
Oh, okay, and they had painted. There's a couple of them in here that did have some white. So it's hard to measure, percentages, but I think mostly the takeaway, at least in summary from my driving around, is that the vast majority of cities either have requirements for more neutral colors with limitations on the brighter colors, or the property owners are choosing to do that. So you do most often see tans and grays. But certainly a host of complementary colors or colors emphasizing entries and signs and some other architectural type features. And then I had some questions about, roof lines too. If you were dead set on having some sort of a peaked roof, or if you're accepting of these flat roof structures, possibly with the parapets which hide the rooftop equipment. So we wanted to talk a little bit about color before we got to that last section. I think we kind of left off on page 6. Six and 7 were some more detailed commercial standards in 1 on page 6, and then moving into industrial standards on page 7. Any thoughts first before, as you were looking at these photos, what you liked, what you didn't like?
Are all of these acceptable under the current standard?
Yes, we would, with the exception of the 100% metal one. Yeah, that's an older building. The green one, what number is that, Dan?
Number 9.
9.
The fire companies wouldn't meet it, would it?
Which number?
Number 1,
The fade?
Oh, yeah.
LaFave, sorry.
Material-wise, it probably does, but yeah, I believe those are panels like Hardy siding.
Actually, they're probably not. They're probably the new style of a metal panel.
Oh, you think so?
They come in like a 30-inch by a 50-inch panel, and they get applied. They're multiple different colors.
Oh, okay. Do those come in different gauges like sheet metal?
They come in, they can come in a sheen, they can come in a wood grain, they can come in a rain grain.
Or is that partly like, we had one somewhere that had the stucco look? kinda like
Yep, that would be something
stucco.
too.
Actually, it was I think the CST building.
They have a lot of different textures to those panels, and those panels are becoming very popular.
Would that be type B ornamental metal?
Huh, where, what?
Type, yeah,
What grade of, grade B material would that be?
metal is, it would still be
Would
metal,
it still be grade,
so they would have to,
be grade D then, steel?
they would it wouldn't, need it then if it's without stone or brick or some higher quality. The windows do count as higher quality.
So what is ornamental metal?
That's more often like trim, like deck railings and, or if you do like, the overhangs that are metal.
Can we clarify where we are starting in this?
First,
Review.
I'm just trying to get feedback on your likes and dislikes with these pictures. What struck you, any comments on roof lines? Some colors obviously stand out more than others. Some blend better with the sky and the brown grass that we have now. Well, I would say most of these newer buildings that have color are definitely limited to 10 to 15% of their total facade area.
I did, however, find some with the larger areas, and I didn't send them. I'm just looking back what we discussed for a change on that.
I would say that going back to the faith, that wouldn't be acceptable if we adopt this, correct?
Right, with the majority of it being a bright color.
But I see it as a very nice building, but that's my opinion.
It's definitely eye-catching, and that's what they, I'm sure, want.
How long does that color last then?
Yeah,
Is it gonna turn
You think
pink
it'll
after a few
fade or
years?
whatever, yeah.
right.
Yeah, I don't know, with the, because
Looks nice
regular
and
metal buildings fade, yeah. Which is maybe why we don't want 100% metal facing our roads and adjacent residential areas.
So about 127, what percent is that? Bright yellow, so
Yeah, well, that's pretty massive, but, yeah, I'd say that one's 15 to 20 there, probably.
Hard to say, it looks like a three-story building.
Yeah, that's big.
or 4 even.
Yeah, if you take a look at the cars, yeah, it's probably 4.
What's our height restriction?
35,
35.
Can build that tall.
Yeah, that wouldn't be allowed in our district. Then the
Do you have
last,
any more slides, Liz?
any more slides? No, I don't. I
Probably
don't.
shut that off so Marty doesn't have to.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice for Marty.
I'm ignoring it.
He doesn't like the tattoos.
Getting a curl on your face.
Nice color selection.
Oh, look, I left an imprint.
Yeah, same.
So I thought we were gonna remove the notation of stark white being utilized as a primary color under, letter C, number 1, page 4.
Oh, so I did not incorporate comments from last time,
That's what I kind of was thinking, and none of this
but,
is,
you know, the commission wanted to see too,
yep,
how the colors kind of all look against the sky, which is why I tried to get a variety of different colors. But, yeah, the white
But
building.
you didn't find any stark white?
I have a couple of pictures, but I mean, you
I
guys
did
can see them
not-
on my phone if you'd like.
Yeah. I didn't find the white being offensive at all.
I didn't either. Actually, I found one right off 65. And it was a pretty good-sized tool company. I don't remember the name, but it's on 65 in East Bethel, or Bethel maybe. And there was probably 5 buildings, all white. And they weren't hugely tall, maybe 10 feet. And they had a roof pitch like a typical home. And they were all white, like all white, except for the roof was like a charcoal gray.
Oh,
And they were very nice looking, but you could tell each individual building was used for something else in the purpose of their manufacturing.
okay, okay. And they were metal, you think?
I'm thinking
Or no,
it
you
was,
said they
it could have been aluminum or metal siding,
Oh.
but it was like, it looked like residential house siding,
Oh,
actually.
I see, okay.
Yeah, and it was all white. I feel bummed that I didn't send this picture, but.
Is this number 21, is this yellow thing made out of metal?
It
I could
could
tell
be,
from the picture.
some of those were just painted.
Some of
Like
the
stucco.
reds don't hold up for nothing either.
Yeah, the darker colors are,
There's one down on Ferry Street there, that when they first did it, it was just beautiful. And then now, a couple of years later, it really went to pot. That was just on the house, you know, red. But when it first comes out, man, it catches your eye and, you know, but don't last.
Here was a parapet I took a picture of.
Ooh, that's a nice looking building.
That's a flat roof building with a parapet on the front of it.
See it, Jeff? That's a nice looking
I
building.
think this yellow is probably, yeah, panels or something.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's a simple parapet, really.
Yeah, those look nice. Yeah.
And the white building I found, here's the multiples of that white building. Quite a few.
Oh, sure. Yeah, even with the dark green background.
Dark
it's-
white, yeah.
Well, it's up against a huge amount of trees,
Yeah, I don't,
but it's right on, it's right off of Highway 65.
Goes well with the trees.
Yeah. The buildings next to it are all mainly, if I can remember right, mostly all like the sheet metal, vertical sheet metal that's been put on.
Most of your steel is.
You get it?
Oh, yeah.
That was the white building that I found, well, multiple white buildings together. It was on 65 north of 24. So I think it's considered Bethel, not East Bethel. Oh, can I give you?
That bad, really?
No, it doesn't. I was really shocked. Actually, I did a turnaround just to go get this picture because I was like, that's a lot of white buildings.
If it's north of 24, aren't you getting really close to like Sandy County?
Yeah, but it's just barely north of 24. Like, this is probably a mile north. I think it's not quite Isani yet. But-
All right, so what are we doing here?
So,
Are we gonna start from the back and work forward, so we can get to the middle and argue later?
you wanted to start on page 6 then, since we didn't talk about it? I have the notes from last time that I can incorporate, I guess. If everyone agrees, I don't think that the white is offensive.
Isn't that bad?
No, it's pretty nice.
I think the problem there would be is if it's a pole building,
Yeah.
that would be the objection there.
But pole building is
Yeah,
not
right.
allowed. It's prohibited based on page 6.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
What's the grades that are allowed, A, B, C?
Yeah, A
For commercial,
is stone, commercial is different than, yeah, industrial.
A, B, C,
But the grades are the same. A is stone and brick.
so industrial allows D.
Industrial allows, yeah.
So I guess going back to page 2, we're not really changing any of the grades. We're just adding
Right.
the words under grade C. Nothing's been changed there. Those are all staying the same.
Yeah, the grades are staying the same for
Yeah.
the most part. So yeah, grade D is allowed in the industrial area.
So if you're gonna take notes from last meeting to integrate with, the exterior material colors and the exceptions, and then the commercial office and industrial uses, what were those letters? C, D, E, F, G, and H. I don't think, did we go over I?
You know, those old buildings have changed immensely.
Did we go over I?
I think we ended at I.
I think so too. Let's start there.
Anything above it.
I agree.
If you're gonna integrate last month's minutes to try to get us something to review at next meeting, I don't feel we should go over it again.
Right.
Right.
But we should at least get through the next half of this.
Right, and then make the changes, put it all together.
Yeah.
Review it one more time.
Agreed, yes.
Yep.
And I'll send these pictures that I had and followed.
That's great.
I forgot all about them.
Make it spread out in the bottom.
So commercial again, thinking that would be our most visible,
And you still have that,
uses along the Viking and parts of Nowthen Boulevard in 47. Number 1, we're excluding steel or aluminum, which would already be excluded under D. Structures must create a visual interest that is consistent with the community's identity and character. So one of our maybe jobs, or my job, would be to find buildings that portray the identity and character that we want, that we're looking for, and then include those, because I think it's helpful to people that are coming in the city.
I think it's actually critical, because when you say community identity and character, if you don't identify it, then it's, you have to identify it somehow.
Right. And
Well,
so-
isn't
whether
driving
it's
around?
pictures or sketches or whatever, and that's kind of why I was asking about the roof type.
Which page were you on?
Six.
So,
6? Okay, that's where I'm at.
so Liz, you mentioned in the pictures, we hadn't really talked about the roof. Did you want to?
That's coming
I did want, feedback
It's
on-
coming up.
It's coming up, yeah, in this section.
Okay. So structures that shall contain at least one visually significant entrance visible from the adjacent public street, which incorporates peaked roof forms, arches, canopies, parapets, vestibules, tower elements or other vertical features. So that breaks up the span of, large wall spaces, as does windows. I might add windows there.
Wouldn't that be glassed vestibules? Isn't that covered under windows?
Vestibule is sort of an entry.
But glassed.
Oh, not ED, you mean? Oh, just because it says glass? Yeah. Yeah, either way, let's see, I think it might be somewhere else. Oh, windows, in number 6, windows should be generously used and have a large significant appearance in the elevation design. Okay, so we're good on 3 then. Number 4, commercial buildings which have ground floor facades that face public streets shall contain windows, entry areas, awnings, overhangs, or other architectural elements which are inviting to and at a scale consistent with pedestrian use. Multiple commercial buildings or uses shall be grouped on larger sites and coordinated among separate sites to create a city center feel and stimulate pedestrian activity. So integrating sidewalks, trails, etc.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mayor.
So, Liz, when you say that, so you're saying that you had started to say there are sidewalks and some kind of connecting. So I noticed when I was traveling this weekend, and I would see different cities you come into, and they'd have, a building here facing this way, another building back here facing a different way, and another building over here. It'd be like totally disconnected in, just each individual owner just got a plot of land and did something completely distinct, but
Right.
dysfunctional, if you will, from the others. And there was no intent to, you have to go from one building to the next to get around. And you had to go through a series of parking lots to get some of these. Is that part of what we're trying to do?
That is part of what we're trying to do. And generally, putting the building up front and creating sort of that equilibrium down your street. And then the parking to the sides or back, that keeps your architectural features visible. And even though you're still accessible, it's using your building to hide some of the parking also. Or maybe you just have, a trail along the Viking side. And that one side is vehicular access and the other is pedestrian.
When you talk about parking, are you saying like all parking or mainly like employee type parking, but maybe some visitor parking in front for, cause you're gonna have this entrance in front. Do people have to drive to the back of the building and then walk back to the front?
Well, it can be a perceived entrance in front too. It doesn't have to, your entrance doesn't have to face your main road, especially when it's a highway, right? Because people are going at high speeds, so maybe it's an architectural, like I said, an element, right, that breaks up your building or is attractive in some way. Not that you could be if you have
Well,
trails on that side.
In number 3, we're saying it has to have at least one visually significant entrance visible from the adjacent public street. So that doesn't say you can't have an entrance in the back.
Right.
But, I guess, just from places I've gone where it's like, okay, you pull into this parking lot and it's got a really nice entrance in the front, a little bit of lawn there, and then you're driving to the back of the building, and now you're walking all the way to the front to go in, because that's where the visitor entrance is. I like the buildings that have a small, maybe visitor parking lot up front, and I don't know if we're trying to dissuade them from having that or discourage that, or are we, but I think you wanna have some ability, I hate having to go through 5 different parking lots to get to the next building.
Well,
But,
if you think in terms, well, you know, one thing that would benefit us would be to come up with a conceptual development plan for this area. Because if you're looking at the bigger parcels on the south side of Viking, you're gonna have a local street that goes in there that could be your focus on, you know, on the interior, right? And you're not necessarily accessing from the Viking side, even though you have signage and visibility of those businesses being there. And a lot of times, you could have an access on both sides, and your loading is in between and screened from the roads, you know. So there's a lot of technique, and I think it would benefit us to have a conceptual layout. You know, how does this all kind of play together, right? And it is challenging, especially at the beginning stages.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mayor.
So Liz, maybe that probably would be helpful, because you talk about Viking here. On the north side, we've got that private road.
Little
So we've got
frontage road.
parking on basically both sides of a road, but that's
Right,
from Iguana to Bill's is a road. And it is a little tricky to get back, you know, if you're backing into that, not realizing that you're not really in a parking lot, you're in a drive-through.
yeah, right.
And so on that side, we have a private road. On the other side, there was a concept of a package road. And so if you're saying there on the south side of Viking, that we really are accessing the businesses on a road between the commercial properties,
Right,
then as you say, you have to give us a concept on where do they load, where is the trash, because you don't necessarily want that all back on Viking either.
Right,
To see all
exactly.
the trash, so.
yeah,
So I think the concept plan would be helpful, because we do have one restriction right now, because we have a private road. And then we have a concept plan for backage roads
right,
on the corners there. But, you know, where do you access the building for loading and unloading?
yeah,
And to the point, if you're gonna have a trail on the Viking side, then you need to have an entrance on both, if you're planning on walking.
yeah.
But yes, I wouldn't wanna park on the backage road or the road in between the two buildings and have to walk around to Viking to get in, because depending on how many buildings, how many businesses are there in a row, you might be walking quite a ways.
Exactly, yeah.
And as we know, it's late April and it's still winter in Minnesota, so.
Right, and that is kind of the way you see it, I think, too, even in historic districts, where you've got the sidewalk on the front side, and then there's a back entrance.
Right.
too. Yeah,
yeah,
Because I think that's the other part of it, is we want to have some consistency, not only in the setback of the buildings and the uniformity of appearance, but
Right.
the utilities and the access points. Because it's one of the problems we have over here, is when people are trying to unload delivery trucks, because we didn't allow enough parking, they're in the travel lanes when they're trying to unload.
they're
which is-
blocking, yeah. And there's no back way to get out of there, you know, yeah, they're kind of stuck.
And that's one of the reasons we're also looking at these plans, because we need to know that the type of structure indicates what type of parking you need to have. And we didn't really have the concept when we put restaurants in, that people are going in for hours at a time, not to a dry cleaners where you're running in and coming out. So we had parking for something that you were running in and coming out, but people were actually sitting around for hours and didn't have enough parking, so.
And it's a meeting place where a lot of times people meet with two cars, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And when you have no place to load and unload, it just complicates it.
Well, I can definitely work on sort of conceptually how our streets might lay out, and then, you know, how the building forms might look. But the whole thinking about putting most of the parking in back, because we don't want that sea of parking in front of the building all the time.
right.
And the consistent, setbacks would be key.
Look at the Ramsey School and that will tell you how not to do it.
The new one,
Yeah,
Brookside?
Yeah, they're unloading right in the front of the building, right to the,
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
not how you should be doing that.
no, they could have done a better job at hiding that.
And they had, especially when they had ample space on the rear.
Well, that's where they have all their recreational space for the children.
There's a whole lot that isn't used in the other corner too. There's nothing in there but star thistles and you name it over there.
Which corner?
Over in the other corner where Skokus had his house in the back there. It's all weeds back there.
Yeah, that's the opposite corner of the building.
There ain't nothing, yeah, but it's the same story. They're not using it, so they could have used that for their, because the kids don't go out there every day. They only go out there when the weather's nice. And in the wintertime, it's not hardly ever they go out there, so. But
It's
that's,
an elementary school.
yeah, but it's still, it's not the way you build the school. You don't put the, you know, it's like the guy, the farmer, when he puts his unloading his manure right by the road where everybody complains.
Of course, it stinks for 2 days.
It's like what used to be down Old Viking here. The barn was on one side of the road and the house was on the other side.
They do them all in New England.
That was what they called the 6% house.
Okay, conceptual street building plan, parking and entry locations, front and back or both, consistent setbacks, hidden loading, pedestrian access,
Loading and trash.
yeah. Okay, so, let's see. Marty asked a question, and then I think it started out with parking, kind of, right?
Yeah, just, I mean, you know, we talked about having the parking in the rear, but I mean, you know, I see, you know, there should be some ability to have a small parking lot in front just for, yeah, for drive-up, for, you know, again, like a laundromat or something like that, or dry cleaners. You don't wanna park behind the building, and yeah, you could have a rear entrance, but, I don't know. Just a plan would help for that, a plan would help.
Well, right, and even if it's just employees, right?
Right,
Or,
exactly,
you know,
exactly.
that takes away, or, you know, leaves the prime spaces for customers. So, let's see, commercial buildings have ground floor facades. Grouping commercial buildings. Yeah, so the city center feel, you know, when I think of that is sort of the, you know, lined street, right? Trees, you've got walkways, consistent setbacks. And then, you know, I think the hardest thing will be, okay, well, how can we allow, uniqueness or individuality with these buildings, but still have a coordinated feel? I mean, that's probably the hardest thing. And I guess that's one reason why the colors, the neutral colors, can unify an area. That's one way to do it, at least.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes. Comes Burrow.
number 5, I guess when I read that, I was visualizing like kind of Old Main in Elk River, where there's still some sort of an angled parking up front, but there's, I mean, obviously Elk River is not the greatest example because they don't have a lot of back parking, but they do have kind of what I'm thinking of, and what I think Mr. Bees is talking about as well, is just having some sort of parking up front, but then having the allowable parking up back.
Yeah.
So, was that kind of what you were getting at too?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm thinking, and that's where my brain was going for a city center feel too. Because there's still sidewalks and trees and stuff like that up front.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mayor.
So Liz, then you were talking about the visual, how do you do that? The colors would be one thing, but I think it's probably where you're looking at roof lines.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a city center field, you probably got to limit some of the roof lines so you don't have every example that you've got in there represented on that. So if there's some commonality there, that at least they can distinguish each, with their own signage and stuff, but.
And if you say something like, peaked elements must be incorporated, you could still have a flat top building with a peaked entry, or, that kind of thing. It doesn't mean that the whole roof has to be peaked, but yeah, pictures of, what we like, would be very beneficial.
You have that noted in number 3 about having it incorporated with.
Peaked roof forms,
Yeah.
arches.
Yep, that covers that.
Yeah, that gives some flexibility.
I mean, because this also changes then as number 5, you've got multiple buildings, sharing walls, that then bumps back to 3, because they're not gonna be able to put a pitched roof on the center part of it, because it just won't physically work. So it's
Oh, right.
going to be a large building broke down into multiple shops. Better words, can I say?
Yeah, and that's where you go to like tower elements or something.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
yep. So I think we're kind of covering all
Yeah.
these bases.
Yep,
Okay. So then, and also what 5 refers to is, having 2 similar buildings on the same site that, kind of like the industrial buildings, which appear to be similar, like 5 and 7, 5, 6, and 7, how they're similar, but they use different colors. I mean, that's a kind of an extreme example.
Oh, yeah.
But they're
Right.
coordinated, but they're different.
And most of your examples here are industrial, so that's why
Yeah,
it's a little different in the commercial area.
right, so,
The last, like 40, 38, 24, 22, 18, they kind of go together.
oh, that's
More
a
commercial.
question, like 12,
Commercial styles.
look at picture 12 with sort of the round cupola almost. I mean, that's very unique, that building is in Centerville,
Is that a government building or?
it's a bank, actually. But it's still peaked, right? But
Sloped and
it's got some interest.
Is 16, is that a commercial building?
Yeah, that's
Is that a golf course?
a builder that builds log homes, that's in, Columbus. And my thought was, wow, this kind of really sticks out, but obviously that's what he wanted. I mean, in a way it's neat, but it would be quite different.
Looks almost like the Oak Grove Golf Course over there.
Oh, yeah.
oh, the rest,
Okay, have him come build our park building. when we have a new park.
Yeah. Anytime.
So are we on 7?
yeah,
7, consistent use of the same materials on all elevations. So that would be the higher quality materials. Visual and physical links shall be established between commercial buildings through site planning, amenities, architecture, common exterior spaces, pedestrian connections, walkways, and landscaping.
That's a lot.
9, a single large dominant building mass should be avoided in the commercial area here to the extent feasible. Specifically, horizontal masses shall not exceed a height to width ratio of 1 to 3 without substantial variation in massing that includes a change in height, projecting or recessed elements, wall articulation, projections, bays, offsets, reveals, windows, and ornamentation. So it kind of goes hand in hand with number 3. Just not a flat wall, you've got some depth to it, and
we're giving an actual ratio though, where you're saying if it's 10 feet tall, it can only be 30 feet long, in a general sense.
Yeah,
that
in
would-
a in a general.
So, you know,
Without
Without
substantial
something.
variation.
Yeah, breaking it
Okay.
up with,
okay,
Like in 40, if you have that extra tower, there it breaks it up, so
yeah, exactly, or 23
23 has parapets and
okay.
or 40, just breaking up it's not just a flat wall.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think putting pictures in here even within our text, would be helpful to, or having sort of an addendum, right, with photos, would be good. So 10, landscaping and screening shall be utilized to buffer large expanses of wall space without doors or windows in locations adjacent to public street rights of way. City-owned land, parks, trails, and areas adjacent to residential land uses, or those areas guided zoned for future residential uses.
Okay.
So we've already, got some screening requirements.
You're not, sorry,
No, go ahead.
in 10, it's not, just get it up. That is not directing any anything towards like a roadway that would go back towards loading and unloading. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, yeah.
My words are,
screening.
yes, screening would only be for public more so, not so much loading and unloading spaces.
Well, it could be. I mean, we require screening of our parking and loading anyway.
But I meant like if you had like a truck drive to the back of some buildings, you wouldn't require trees along there, because.
Not the whole thing if it's just a driveway,
Exactly.
but it's more so the garbage or where the truck might sit.
True, if it's gonna be hiding something like that, I understand, okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so industrial. The character, style, materials, and scale of buildings should be compatible with adjacent land uses and buildings. Single large dominant building mass should be avoided. It's kind of similar to the commercial, but with a larger ratio there of height to mass, length. So maybe we say there too that in number 2 it should be, facing streets or residential areas. Because typically in industrial areas, it's not critical to worry about how it looks from the side if you've got another industrial use next to you.
so like in this number 7, are these green wall pieces count as a variation, or is that just?
Yeah, I think to some degree that would count. Whether color's enough, I don't know what that material difference is, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, that's
It's not recessed or projected, or height difference.
Yeah.
Seems
that's
like-
that Ramsey development, right, where they have the 4 buildings
Yep.
now
Yep.
that are all identical,
Yeah,
just different colors.
right.
But they do have
They break up the walls, yeah.
yeah, they break up the wall, but they
Yeah.
also have the protrusion above the sidewall to give it that peaked or parapet feel where it's dividing attention to it.
Yeah, I would say these meet number 2 pretty easily.
Maybe it's about 1 to 5.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they're reasonably attractive for an
Yeah.
industrial.
for an industrial building,
Looks
yeah.
fine, we're just making sure that it's not violating
Yeah,
number 2.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that's a good point. Facades must be designed to reduce mass scale and uniform monolithic appearance of large unadorned walls. Don't know if I like the word monolithic. facades must provide, through the use of detail and scale, an architectural rhythm through changes in roof lines, textures, and trims. Should we add colors, changes in color, texture, and trim, or not?
Well, I thought we were only allowing them 3 colors.
Well, yeah, but you can be neutral, right?
But that's still a different color. I mean, three colors are 3 colors, so I guess we gotta be a little careful in saying that, because,
Yeah, well, like 7, I mean, pictures 5 and 7, they've got 3 colors,
yep,
right?
And then colors counts as breaks.
And then we don't really count trim. I think there's an exception that with trim color in our. So,
Trim or signage,
what'd you say, Dan?
or signage.
Oh, and sign, yeah, would be.
Okay.
The relationship between office and warehouse manufacturing portions of a building shall be unified. The office portion shall not be the only portion to contain grade A and B materials. And a lot of times we see that, how they do the wainscot and down the warehouse portions. Building entrances shall be clearly defined and recessed or framed by sheltering elements such as an awning, arcade, portico, in order to provide shelter from the summer sun and winter weather. I think it helps to add interest. And I don't know about the weather comment, but, would you agree with that? I don't know.
I think,
I mean, most of them do have some sort of an entry or overhang.
you could almost make it identical to number 3 for the commercial architectural standards. Contain at least one visually significant entrance. Incorporates peaked roof forms, arches, canopies, parapets, glass vestibules. I don't know. That
Yeah,
simplifies things.
okay, good idea. Large spans of wall space may not face a public street and shall incorporate design features to provide some architectural interest. Building roofs should be designed to reduce the overall mass of the structure and harmonize with surrounding development. Parapet walls and roof systems shall be designed to conceal all roof-mounted mechanical equipment from view to or from adjacent properties and public rights-of-way. The use of varied roof lines is encouraged. Permitted roof styles include gable, hip, shed, or gambrel roofs. Flat roofs are permitted if sufficiently disguised through the use of parapet walls.
For industrial buildings, do we need to hide the mechanicals on the roof?
I think, yeah, facing the
Pick
streets
that
at
much up
least,
really.
Okay.
yeah,
And number 7, you can see their mechanical.
You should have said that when you were approving the minute.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice it.
I'm just, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking if you're back in this industrial park back here, it's like, okay, I guess, but if it's an industrial building like LaFave here, I mean, you can see their thing, I don't know,
It doesn't seem real disruptive to have that little
right.
showing there on number 7.
That one they
You know,
right
for
there.
commercial areas, I think yes, and if it is an industrial building
We told them.
out on biking or something, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But I know one of in the previous building that I was in, the city of Plymouth required a fence around, we had to hide the mechanicals. And it was a wooden fence, basically, just pre-built fence sections. And after about 5 years, they looked like crap, they started falling down. And, you know, it looked worse than just looking at an air conditioner on a roof. So, I don't know.
Was that commercial or industrial?
That was actually,
you can go see that.
that was we weird in between.
Oh,
It was actually, it was commercial building, but it was kind of on the edge of a residential area. And,
I
it was
see.
They
right
used
off
to have that set up over at the Mercy Medical Center,
Oh,
over
yeah.
across from the hospital.
Yep,
And now it's a concrete three-sided barrier with a chain link gate on it, but it used to be
Right.
all wood,
yep,
so it
Yeah,
fell
our
apart.
buildings in Ramsey, we had to have the concrete.
yeah, I mean, this was,
The mechanicals up top and anything on the ground had to be in a concrete.
oh, yeah, no, this was on top. This was on top of the building, and,
Oh.
you know, the mechanicals were about twice the size of this table, they weren't very big. So it was just basically fence sections set on concrete piers around it, just to hide it, which it looked uglier than leaving it open. I mean,
That would be a little extreme.
yeah, and, you know, it was really adjacent to a residential area, so I kinda get it, but, yeah.
Okay.
Right, so now we're talking about the roofs.
For industrial, right?
Are you guys okay with a shed roof?
Do you have an example of that?
But you don't know what
Right
direction.
over there.
That's right.
True,
For,
but that shed roof can go any direction.
Well, I do think there's some really nice shed roofs that can
I've
be
seen some.
contemporary looking. You know, not just all blue and boring, but, if integrated into the overall, you know,
The
design.
real reason for the shed roof has nothing to do with the looks of it.
Right, I understand.
It's all
Looks
all
pretty
water.
nice.
Yeah, but that's a
Yeah.
little bit
That's
different.
what the problem
that's a
is,
shed roof.
is
Yeah,
quite a few of our
That is
roofs,
shed.
but it's
Have
different
these.
layers of it.
you know,
Still shed roof.
pools of water up
Yeah,
there.
it's shed roof.
And that's what they try to eliminate now.
But
Because
this
years
one
ago, I
here
worked down
maybe
in
because it's one
Roseville,
color.
and we would actually pump the water off of the roofs. Keep it dry, because of the amount of water you would get. Well, like, night before last year, or Saturday night it was, I think it was. Man, we got lots of rain here.
Yeah,
Saturday
it was
night.
heavy.
Yeah, and if you got a flat roof, it's gonna pool because it just can't run, you know, fast enough, but it does help with a taper to it. That's a big cost saving, and you don't end up fixing them so much.
Yeah.
is 32 a shed roof? Kind of looks like.
Every industrial building would be.
No,
would
it
be
looks like a flat roof
Every
Tell from the picture.
with an
industrial building
overhang,
I've been in,
Oh.
with a flat roof.
like a parapet with an overhang.
If you have time, if you have time, drive over by Target in Otsego, and there's a new building over there.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
I think it's a
We actually put
daycare.
them in,
Yeah.
run the water out
It's
the
actually
sides.
very attractive.
That was,
Well, and in this diagram, if that's the side of the building and the front is the high pitch, and you have some element
the one
for
at
Yeah.
Arden, Arden Hill.
Yeah.
It's all on the direction you
Yeah,
put it, I think.
exactly,
Acres.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the
That's why
one
we
that you
go-
guys are referring to here in Nowthen, they placed it for weather and for
Right.
capturing of it, and that's the purpose of it,
Yep,
so.
Yeah. I think with that one, I mean, had it had more windows and other,
Yeah,
you know, maybe another material, right, it would have been a lot different looking.
break up the color a little bit,
Yeah. Okay, so again, on page 8 there, a little more about screening the rooftop. Footnote. Now, this is it's a different section, so it would apply to both commercial and industrial.
okay.
So if we don't want, you know, I think the street side is most important and probably the residential if it does back up, although we've got screening requirements along residential. Let's see here. Yeah, screened from view of street rights of way and all adjacent properties, whether ground mounted or rooftop mounted. Electronic surveillance equipment and alarm hardware shall be as invisible and unobtrusive as possible. Well, cameras are so small now that, required screening of refuse and recycling containers, parking and loading areas shall be regulated by the other section, so. We have a good ordinance as far as screening of loading refuse and parking, so we're good there. I just, in letter M, I was just referencing the section there, which is non-conforming uses and structures. So if you're remodeling or maintaining existing buildings that do not increase the floor area of the structure, they don't necessarily have to comply. Additions of less than 50% of the floor area, they may use the same or higher grade materials as the existing structure. That's fair, I guess. Page 9. Oh, parking, I did amend parking. Lot design, commercial property shall have a minimum of 50% of all required parking located inside or rear yards, except when street access or a difficult site configuration necessitates a front yard location.
Okay, that addresses my concern,
That makes some sense then, at least
Yeah.
you're splitting it up, it's not
Right.
just one mass. And see, so then your front is going to be, usually from where you access, right? If it's the local street or the Viking, depending on you're not gonna have direct access to Viking. It'd be a frontage road situation.
right,
Reciprocal access between adjacent commercial industrial projects shall be required where properties front on limited access roadways and where local street access or frontage roads do not exist or cannot be established in accordance with the city's comprehensive plan. So it gives us a bit of an out to require the shared driveways like we've got if we don't have any other choices. Okay, so kind of putting this all together with changes,
So Liz,
yeah,
just to note in item 3 there, it says compliance with the standards on the following parking lot dimension table. Do you have that? Does that subsequently follow this, or where's that table?
yeah, no, that table is in our city code. And so what it does is just specifies dimensions for instance, if you have 90-degree parking, your aisle width is different than if you have 45-degree parking. But yeah, that's already in there, but I can include that next time.
Yeah, either that or just reference it where it's found in city code, because it just says in the following table.
Yeah, it's in that parking section.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So putting this all together and then maybe start working on an overall kind of conceptual layout of streets and building masses. And or if anybody, drives by commercial properties that they find attractive, maybe snap a photo and text it to me or email, would be great. And I'll try to do the same.
We had talked at one point with the storage units, the one down there in Ramsey, off of Bunker, where they've got the gated front. The storage units are all behind there, but the front itself looks like a nice facade. You don't actually see all the storage units.
It's like a wall, yeah.
Which one are you talking of?
It's, you know, right by the oil company, on Bunker between 47 and Sunfish, on the south side there.
Kinda next to Wendy's.
Just by Wendy's there, yeah. You don't notice it, but it's storage units, but because they've got a nice wall and gated area out front, you don't see any of the storage units behind it. It's just a signage out front, you know it's a storage unit, but you don't really see anything behind it, which is a nice setup from, in a commercial area, so.
How would that fit in with this? Well, I'm trying to think of anything that would address that, having a wall and, you know, that would,
That's a storage,
Basically have the stone frontage.
yeah, okay.
but it's a storage facility, so they typically have some sort of
Sure.
perimeter security, which is slightly different than a lot of the stuff we were just talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just the thing, because
Yeah.
storage units are probably gonna continue to be in demand. It's-
But if we had someone come in and they had maybe a nice building and they wanted to build on Viking and they were gonna put a stone wall around the whole building, would that be acceptable?
It would, I view it as a type of screening.
Okay,
So if the intent was not to screen the front entrance, for instance, no, that would not be appropriate,
okay,
yeah. If the intent was to screen the loading area with a brick wall, perfect,
yeah.
you know?
And I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, I mean, you know, I agree, not many people are gonna wanna, you know, do a commercial building and then try and hide it. But, you know, what if they did?
Well, you've got a similar thing, we've got it fenced over here, Perkins has it, he put up a nice, high-quality fence, you could do a similar thing with it,
Right,
with panels, with stone-faced panels.
yeah,
The MBI over here kind of combined the fence with the stone pillars and stuff out front, so they're trying to hide their parking area,
right,
but their office area is obviously wide open, so.
yeah.
So where we at at this, we're gonna have another meeting to finalize it? Or
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
well, we'll keep kind of moving forward, there's,
how we have a time limit? We got a lot of time left?
oh, time-wise on the moratorium?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good for a year, which would get us to August. So,
We
we've
should
got
have
some
it
time.
done.
There's plenty of time to go.
Projects every now and then.
Yeah, I think we're making some,
Money's not-
you know, having good discussions and.
Okay, we through for the night on this item then?
Upcoming? The
Yes, we're
upcoming?
through on that one, I think.
Okay, you wanna cover the upcoming projects in April?
Still waiting on the Shermer 5-lot plat, Twin Parkway, 205th and Boss, kind of a, little pocket of land in there. But I'm told it's at engineering, so we'll see what he comes up with. Amended CUP for cell tower at 5606 Verde Valley. So, Schmidt Bauer bought that, property with the cell tower, and Dish Network tried to slip one by everybody without even talking to the landowner, and was increasing the area of the, I guess the easement area, their allowable use area. And I caught it, and I called Matt Schmidt-Bauer, and, yeah, they had to buy additional, land or use area from him, and so, under our ordinance, they have to come through for an amended CUP, because they're increasing the area of ground equipment and such. And our ordinance now requires, screening and fencing, and it's not. So they will have to provide that. So they are currently revising plans to include that.
You can imagine the screening on a cell tower, so you can't see any of it. It's really challenging.
Back in the beanstalk vine, yeah.
Screen.
You gotta have an accent color on it,
Right.
Other than red.
yeah,
Yeah, red cell phone.
beautiful colors.
Other than that, not a lot.
That's it, okay, Entertain a motion for adjournment, or someone like,
He was married to,
Commissioner Epplin made the motion, somebody want to second?
Right in.
Second.
Say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries.
house across
Done.
from Danny Burke back up in there.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a smart thing to